What if the one idea you're about to hear could save you years of trial and error? Stay with us because today's conversation might completely change how you grow your business. Welcome to the Glovisor Podcast, where we explore business growth, communication, leadership, and personal development through real conversations with people that make an impact. Success in business isn't about working longer hours. It's about building a business that continues to grow even when you're not. Today's guest has helped more than 1,000 entrepreneurs, coaches, and consultants break free from the burnout and create businesses designed for lasting success. She's the creator of Evergreen Success Formula, founder of Evergreen Business Queens, an Amazon bestselling author, and an internationally recognized speaker who believes sustainable growth always beats short-lived hype. Glovisor welcomes Sabine Matharu.
Thank you very much for your amazing introduction. I'm really pleased to be here.
Excellent. I can't wait for the conversation.
Let's get it going.
Yes. All right. So please share with us, what is it that you do?
Yeah, as you already said, I talk about evergreen in business a lot. So I work with female entrepreneurs, founders, coaches, creators. And I noticed that a lot of business owners actually are struggling to be consistently visible, to attract consistently clients. And I started to, really look into what is actually keeping them from getting those clients. And of course, right now we have a surge of a lot of people opening up information businesses. And obviously we should be everywhere. It looks like there's a YouTube channel, maybe Instagram, maybe TikTok. And, there's so many different platforms that we need to be visible on. So I've taken this concept and developed an evergreen cycle for businesses to actually go and implement so that they can repurpose, reutilize any asset that they create in a business that will actually save them time and energy and having to revisit and reinvent the wheel, I'd say, over and over again, because that's what we've been doing, right? My background is actually continuous improvement and process management. And that's why the idea came, why this notion, this ethos of Evergreen actually came from that. When you think about manufacturing, for example, that's where I've worked for the longest time. We had to actually really find a way how people can actually be more efficient with the resources that they have. And quite often it would actually have a big cost impact when there was waste, when there was rework, when we'd had to reinvent the wheel. Like, just think about the particular product that is actually a physical product. So apply this to an online business, digital services, and that's really where Evergreen comes from. And I know not a lot of people really thought about this, or is actually understanding what it actually does, but it's super, super powerful. Once you get into it, you can actually remove 80% of your marketing and have something running over and over again. And you can really focus on what you want to do, which is your paid coaching, consulting, creating that service done for you, whatever you're doing.
From what you said, it seems that Evergreen is really working on repurposing a lot of whatever content you currently have into different channels. Is that correct?
That's one portion of it. So let me explain the entire 6 pillars, because actually has to hang together. It's an ecosystem. And if you are a business owner and if you're now sitting in your chair and listening to this and think, actually, what are the things that I am doing in my business day in and day out? There are 6 pillars, basically. Pillar number 1, you need to have a business model. You need to know who you serve, how you serve them, and how do you make money, basically. That's a foundational thing. So that can be evergreen, right? There's an aspect to this which we can go into, or we can just pick 1 or 2 pillars and discuss in more detail. But business model is number 1. Then, based on your business model, are your offers. So think about, how do you evergreen your offers? Do you always have to explain the same old things, or can you create, use AI, for example, use workflows, use videos, use artifacts that you can repurpose, and 100 people can actually have the same link and go through the same course, rather than you having to teach or do lots of one-to-ones. So there's an evergreen aspect in your offers. Well, the pillar number 3 is now the visibility, because once you have your business model and your offers, now it's like, how are you visible? How can you repurpose? How can you create so that it fits several platforms? And maybe you don't even want to be on all the platforms. You shouldn't actually be on all the platforms anyway. Go onto the platforms where you think, you have fun and you can actually create and you can be in having a sustainable, consistent visibility, rather than trying to sort of mold yourself into platforms where it's not yours. Like TikTok is not mine, right? So I'm not going on TikTok trying to be someone who's entertaining or making people laugh. I'm just not that person. I'm quite serious. So I actually like to teach. I host, live sessions in the community. I'm writing books and those kinds of things, right? So you got to think about visibility in the aspect. How can you make it sustainable and also fun? And what is your patch? What's your cup of tea? And don't touch the other stuff. That's pillar number 3. So pillar number 4 is then, well, that's great. I'm visible. I'm on podcasts. I'm doing blogging, this, that, and the other. But what are people, how do you attract people? Do you have a call to action? Do you have a conversion event? Do you have a sales call? Do you have a webinar? Because they may not just buy by hearing you or reading about you on social somewhere the first time round. There has to be consistency. There has to be something that nurtures them and gets them more ready for the sale. And sometimes people are not even aware that they have this problem. So you may even need to educate them. So I call this the conversion pillar and the sales pillar, basically. That's really when that conversion is happening, when people are pulling out their wallet and they are making their sales. So again, you could think about evergreen webinars, for example. How many times have you put together a speech or an online webinar, but then you're not repurposing it? Or how about automating some of those webinars where people can just watch it at any given time? There is software out there that can do that. So again, here is another aspect of evergreen. Pillar number 5 then is, okay, people have purchased. What's happening next? That's when the work really starts, but that's not many people are actually teaching this. This is like your onboarding, your welcome. What do you do when a client enters your world and they've paid? Right, there has to be something happening. So how do you automate and how do you evergreen this? Have you got this ready? Have you got a contract ready? Do you have an email sequence ready that onboards them and tells them this is maybe a questionnaire you might need to fill in, or these are the first steps. Maybe you have a membership and it gives them something to do and some quick wins and then checking in and so on, right? So that's a whole piece. And you can evergreen this in a sense where it's not just about repurposing. It's about creating assets that can work on automation and they can work over and over again, regardless of who's joining when. And then the last pillar number 6, this is where it takes it to the next level. This is where, right, continuous improvement and scaling comes in. And then perhaps even adding more offers. But you've been through this once, right? You've created a whole ecosystem, perhaps around one offer, and that's working. And now you can look at, okay, is there any feedback from the current mastermind, for example, or the membership that I'm running, and get the feedback, get testimonials, get referrals. How is that being put into the ecosystem? Is there an automated offboarding sequence or a conversation happening with a client? Again, not a lot of people are actually thinking through this, and even maybe a mid-program review. Right? Of course, it depends what your business model is, because if you have low-ticket items that are like $17 ebooks, that's going to be harder to actually implement. But there's still things that you can do to really maximize and to then grow from existing clientele as well. So as you can see, every single pillar has its own aspect when it comes to evergreening, automation, using AI nowadays, and just making things more smoothly and having all these little puzzle pieces in place that make the machine work much smoother. And you don't have to keep going back and forth and, re-engineer something, or this is where that client now got stuck or hasn't opened that email. Have you got another email already put in place? Maybe there's a 90-day email sequence that you want to put in place so it's automated. You don't have to sort of sit here every day and think, oh, what I'm going to put out there today, what email I'm going to write, what post I'm going to write. It's all pretty much automated. And yes, it takes a bit of work. And this is what I do within my program, is actually helping entrepreneurs set all of these up, set all the 6 pillars up. But once these 6 pillars are in place, just imagine you can literally go on the beach, you can work there. You don't have to backtrack over and over and recreate assets. Of course, there will always be things you want to create and add, but the main engine, the 80%, is going to be there for you, and it's going to be doing the heavy lifting.
Oh, I love it. I think those 6 pillars are so easy to understand, and I can see how it makes life a lot easier working with you after you start to understand these. Can you get us on the same page within the context of your industry? What is evergreen? What is repurposing? And then what are the levels for what's considered a low ticket item and a high ticket item?
This is my interpretation of evergreen. And I think I've kind of made this up a little because other people may think about nature and sustainability and that kind of stuff. And of course, it does come from nature. If you think about a tree that is evergreen, that is always green, that's how our businesses should function. We shouldn't be, losing our leaves, in the winter, and perhaps losing all our clients and not doing anything and go into hibernation. So it is really about creating an ecosystem that works for you year round, whether you're on a holiday or you're off sick. The challenge, I guess, is when we are busy and we have clients, we tend not to have time for marketing. And then so we have this drought all of a sudden, because yes, there's a flood and we may be doing lots of work, but there should always be an engine behind the scenes just running, and just keep on nurturing, and almost like a net that gets more fish in and then brings it closer to you. In fact, I actually also can give you a bit of a metaphor. If you think about, you want to attract new clients in your business. Say there are different smaller conveyor belts, and you have a magnet in the very front of this conveyor belt. And each conveyor belt, say, is a certain length. Let's say very short. And then there's another conveyor belt, but the client has to actually stay on these conveyor belts. And they may even have to hop from conveyor belt to conveyor belt to come closer to you, right? And those conveyor belts come towards your offer, let's say. So you're attracting them because they're cold in the beginning. They don't know who you are. There's this magnet out there. It could be like something free you're offering, and that's called the lead magnet. And we're going to talk about stages now as I'm going through the conveyor belts analogy in terms of a low ticket, high ticket offer as well, because I think that's just perfect. Because in the beginning, people may not know you. They don't trust you. So it's going to be hard to sell something that's $10,000 like off the bat. Yeah, of course you can do it. And, there's methods. You probably run a webinar or sales call and things like that. And of course, there's also the messaging and how, what you're actually fixing. Then you can just sell that right off the bat. But just imagine yourself, would you go in and you just hand over $10,000 to someone who you've never spoken to? You don't even know what they do. So you'd always ask for maybe a brochure first. So that could be the first thing, is the freebie. So that's your magnet. So they come onto the first conveyor belt. So they consume something and they learn about you, and maybe they are enrolled in your email list, and then there's some more content coming. There's maybe little videos and nuggets that entertain them, that educate them, and so they're on this conveyor belt. However, they could actually fall off that conveyor belt because they may stop clicking on your emails. Well, they might do that because they may not get what they wanted, or they just don't think you're the right person. So they switch off, right? So the conveyor belt could become broken, right? It's not a linear conveyor belt that takes them all the way towards you. So you have different things that that you can put in place to make it a bit more smoother. That could be a low ticket offer, right? So the next thing to the free thing could be something that is very low ticket. So for example, I have created a bunch of low ticket offers with Claude artifacts. So because I had so much training already on my desktop, and I really wanted to visualize some of this and make it really playful, create them into games and something interactive that my clients or future clients can actually really use and implement. And that's really, really exciting to actually create things like that, because that's what people want. They don't just want to consume videos anymore. They want stuff that works and tools they can use in their business. So that becomes, for me, a small ticket, a $17, $37, $47 item that I can sell as a one-off. And that gets delivered on an email, for example, and they have a link that they can access and perhaps a video training around it. So that's a low ticket. Now, what I did in my example is I created a one low ticket item for each of my 6 pillars to give them a glimpse of what's that pillar about, right? But they leave saying, wow, this is great. I've got a small quick win. I now figured out my business model, which maybe I want to do one-to-many, which is perhaps like a mastermind or a membership, but they just don't know how to actually implement this membership and make it grow. And that's when they get another higher ticket offer presented, because then they're in an email sequence. They purchase something from me, which is a fairly cold purchase, which does work. So I do run, for example, Facebook ads, and then they purchase a low ticket offer, and then they get an email sequence. And I check in with them as well, but it's all automated, right? I've already written these emails. They're in there. They're just been sent. Even if someone purchases today, they get day 3 email the day after tomorrow. Again, this is what called Evergreen. And then so the next offer may be a mid-ticket, but you can also go on to high ticket straight away thereafter and say, look, I'm going to help you implement all 6 pillars. Come into this program, and I'm going to work with you for 3-6 months, and it is going to be, a few $1,000s, and then you move into high ticket. Or you could place it yourself also, creating a mid-ticket, which is a bit of a hybrid, and say, look, you can come and work with me. There's going to be a group. You don't have that much access to me. You can come once a week or once a month, whatever it may be. And we work on these and these modules, and you got these videos, and it may be a couple of $100, right? So that would be like a mid-ticket. So for me, low ticket items, it's no access to me personally. I would have done a video and given them an interactive app, or which I call now the artifact, basically. And then the mid-ticket would be a small touch point with myself. And then the high ticket would be pretty much done with you, or even done for you.
It sounds like this is a true turnkey type of setup that you have ready for anyone who's going to be working with you.
Yeah, this is a real big golden nugget that I'm sharing here. And I'm seeing this so many times when these entrepreneurs come to me. They have so many ideas. We all love, obviously, serving. We've got loads of ideas. But then we spread ourselves too thin, because one might have this one-to-one, then this mini course, this retreat, and it's kind of like not really hanging together. Because the reason why I'm saying, look, create something like a signature solution, which has a number of pillars, like I have 6 pillars. You can always talk about exactly those 6 pillars, whether you come on a podcast, whether you do mini trainings, whether you do a webinar, whether you do posts. You always talk about either one of these pillars, and you can say, actually, this is pillar number 1 out of 6. And if you want to see the whole ecosystem, you can link to it, for example. It just makes life so much easier with everything you're creating. Just create it within this universe.
Sabine, how did you get into this line of work?
It was actually an accident. So I was a senior manager in a very well-known organization. Had a lot of fun working there, but it was very tough. I was traveling a lot. It was obviously in a senior management role. And then I had kids, and I decided actually I would like to automate some of the work that I did. And maybe I could become an entrepreneur and just do the same thing. It was basically leadership consulting stuff, a little bit different. I thought, what if I could just automate? Because I always was talking about the same things. And so I started thinking about videos, about memberships, and digitizing all my work. And so I fell into this and had to learn so many things. And it was back in like almost 15 years ago now. It was hard. There was no drag and drop. There was no AI. You literally had to copy and paste code and connect different software up, and it would be a real nightmare to actually troubleshoot if software wouldn't talk to each other. And I had to learn everything from A to Z, although I didn't want to learn. I was a tech phobic person when I started off. I was like, sales funnels, websites, no, I can't do it. But yeah, it was an accident. I learned all of it the hard way. And now with AI, I mean, this is just a breeze.
Well, you travel light years to get to where you are today.
It is, absolutely.
So can you take us through the process of working with you? If someone called you today that's never worked with anyone else and they just want to get their processes and their offers out there.
There are different pathways depending on how fast one wants to move and what their budget is. So it starts with a half a day, just a couple of hours looking at their business, and I'm giving them a roadmap. That's one option. And then they go away and they do it. Okay. Then the other option, the next option is to work with me for a whole day. And I love this idea because it's very intense. It's getting all your 6 pillars pretty much, or at least a framework in place in one day, working with me. So you've got all your assets, a whole funnel working, a mini course, your emails. And of course, it works really well using AI. Otherwise, it would take several days or weeks. But we work together on this and we brainstorm over, like a Zoom, for example. I would share a screen, have all the information ready of that particular business. Sometimes businesses come to me, they don't have a business yet, or they don't have an idea. So we actually have to brainstorm, and I have a number of ways to actually get them to real clarity, because they might say, yeah, I want to have this kind of business. And I said, that if you want to scale, it's not gonna happen. What's your time commitment? Oh, you still have a full-time job. Well, let's consider that. So these are questions that need to be answered and put into perspective. So that's the fast track, basically, the intensive side of things. And then there's also, well, I wouldn't say it's the slow track, but it's pretty much also intensive. It's like a detailed sort of, let's get all your pillars in place. And that's why I have another 3 months and a 6 months program where we meet once a week. And, it could be someone's got a 9-to-5 job and they only work on the weekend, and that suits them really well. So it's all about creating and validating at least one offer that works and gets them an income.
I like the way you have different programs available to meet them where they are. Are you able to share with us a success story of someone who has worked with you in the past?
Yes, so there was one which was quite an intensive one of those VIP days. She came to me. She's an online educator, very well established lady who works with schools and works with sort of does tuition with kids. And she said, "I'm so busy. I have so many one-to-ones. I want to take myself out of the business a little bit, and I just want to enjoy life a little bit more." Right. So she's already had good clients, but she was charging just by the hour, right, as a tutor. And then we created a program. It was literally within, I would say, no more than 2 weeks. We created a new program that she digitized, Then we created a webinar to launch. She then helped her to create all the posts and reels and things like that. I mean, she had to get on camera, but we obviously talked about what the content might look like and what you might want to say and position that and sort of get people on the webinar, right? Doing a webinar for her was the perfect thing to do and launch a $5,000 program. She had, I think, within 2 weeks and doing all this pretty intense work, she got 15 people booked onto the webinar and she sold 3 packages out of the 15, which is quite a high conversion rate. But it's very, very doable. If you have the right audience, the right message, and the right structure of a webinar and a great offer, you can go very, very far very quickly with this.
That's
Yeah.
great. 3 out of 15. Sabine, what's one message that you want the audience to take away from your episode?
The one message: never forget why you started your own business. And remember, you have a duty to go out there and share your brilliance and embrace a little bit of evergreen. Have a think about, how can you take yourself out of the business and perhaps automate some of the things that you would have to do over and over again. Because once you've got this in place, you have less headache, you have more space, you have more fun, you have more space to actually get new clients.
In every aspect, enjoy what you do because it comes
Yes,
through. Mm-hmm.
it does.
So,
It truly does come through.
so where should listeners continue this conversation?
Well, they can connect with me on Instagram, at Sabine Matharu, or also on Facebook. But my most favorite place is my school community. So there is a platform called School, which is SKOOL. And if you're looking for the Evergreen Business Queens, you can come and join me there because it's very interactive. We've got a community of like-minded women having conversations. We have a few men in there as well, so you're very, very welcome. And there are live events, and then all my courses are available in there as well. And I think we could also put an email somewhere around this podcast as well, if you want to connect with me directly and see how I can best help. And just one thing I wanted to mention is everything I do nowadays is not about teaching. It's about creating tools one can implement directly in their business. Like, for example, with pillar number 3, I've created the Evergreen Visibility Flywheel, which is an app which lets you actually plan your content and then also distribute it out and repurpose and measure how you're doing so you continue to stay consistent as well. And it also has one tab where actually you can plan out your signature solution. So these are things I'm very, very passionate about because no more learning more stuff. It's about implementing. That's the main thing when someone comes into my world.
Sabine, thank you for being here today and for sharing with us your evergreen process and the 6 pillars. I'm sure most of us have already gained some knowledge and some interest. And thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
You're welcome. Thanks everyone for listening. If this episode inspired you, share it with someone who needs it. And don't forget to follow the Glovisor Podcast for more conversations that make an impact. Till the next time.